All right, welcome back, everyone. We are joined now by the general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs, Mr. Scott Pioli, and I got to jump right into this, and I'm just curious, Scott, in light of what's going on with the labor situation, how did that affect your approach or your philosophy with the draft? I mean, how did you change it? I mean, I saw different things. You went after different players, it seemed like, this time.
Well, I think the approach overall, Jack, wasn't that. What was different was there weren't certain holes filled prior to going into the draft. In the past, we've had free agency, and you've had a chance. Your season ends. You know which players you have, which players you're not going to have, based on the players that you retain or lose via free agency. So you know you have a clearer picture as to where some of your holes are. We didn't really have that clear picture going in, so we make some assumptions. You have some thoughts on how you're going to do things. So we drafted, based on best player and need. And what happens in that makes you approach free agency a little bit different, because eventually there is going to be free agency. In terms of the players, I think we stayed pretty true to script in terms of the guys that we brought into the club. We're looking for the same kind of guys. Guys are passionate about football. Football has to be one of the three most important things in their family and in our mind. I mean, in their to them, it's football, their family, and their faith. You get those three things, and you pursue players like that, and their job is important to them, and they're passionate about the game, gives you a good chance for us to get the makeup that we're looking for.
A year ago, you went after team captains, and you had a bunch of them, I think 6 guys among your draft choices. This
6
year,
out of the 7,
yeah, and this year maybe 2 of the top 3 guys, I'm not saying they have baggage, or I'm not saying they're character flaws, but they're a little bit different. There are some issues here. Yeah. And we'll start with Baldwin, because Baldwin had called out his coach and his quarterbacker. That's the information we had.
Right.
You saw something you really liked there, and maybe you'd share that with us.
Yeah, again, big picture, going back to this year, interestingly enough, something that hasn't been talked a whole lot about is, of the 9 picks, 7 of these players were captains of their college teams this last year also. And with Jonathan, I think, before we get to Jonathan, I think big picture, I'm not sure that there's a real clear painting of what these guys are and who they are in terms of their overall makeup. Certainly, Jonathan had the one thing at the end of the season where he said some things about his team, his staff, that were publicized. But as we looked into that, we did our homework very thoroughly, and we felt really confident that all the people, I mean, we went back to his high school, we went back to the college, we talked to everyone on that staff, and everyone felt very comfortable about Jonathan. And as you know, sometimes in the media, if there's an incident, if there's something that happens, I said a lot of stupid things when I was 20 and 21 years old, and or words that we wish we could have back. And as we checked into the real root of what was behind that situation, everyone, even the people that he said things about, they were very comfortable with Jonathan as the player that he is. I mean, just supremely talented player that works really hard and is very, very passionate about football.
Really a big guy. He weighs about 230, and I mean, I go back from the old days. I date myself, the Lynn Swans, and we had a kid by the name of Carlos Carson who played in. They weren't very big. Now you're getting into those big receivers, aren't you?
There's different types of receivers that give different opportunities for different types of things. And he's a big receiver, but he's a fast receiver. He has straight downfield speed. And he's got a size and stature. Now we've got 2 big receivers in Jonathan and Dwayne that are big guys. And Jonathan's about 6'4", and with the inside stuff being done with Tony Moiaki at tight end, there's going to be a lot of different opportunities and options there.
Okay, the 3rd round pick, and while we're in that vein, the linebacker from Georgia, and there was some issues with him. And the reason I bring this up, Scott, I recall hearing John Gruden say on draft day he was his biggest disappointment because the guy had a tendency to take too many plays off. Here again, I want to hear what you saw in him, because obviously you think highly of this guy. I read where he was rated 55th or something like that. You got him at 70. So you made a steal there. You got value, right?
Again, going back to the situation, we were very aware of the situation. I think everyone in the world's aware of the situation that Justin got himself into, and we were acutely aware of that at the time when we pulled his name. I think what we wanted to do as we went through this process was maintain the integrity of the draft with the picks that we had. When we moved from 21 to 27, we picked up a bonus pick. And we felt with this bonus pick, at that point in time, there was an opportunity to get a player that we had done thorough research on. And again, this is another player where we did thorough research in his hometown, at his high school, and at the college. Todd Grantham, who's the defensive coordinator down in Georgia, is a guy who was a defensive coordinator with Romeo Crennel in Cleveland. He worked with Nick Saban, who's a good friend of mine. Todd is someone I've known for a lot of years, and Todd has spent time around him. And we felt that with all the information that we gathered, that yes, there's a person with a situation here and clearly has to, you know, get better. And we also thought it was a rare opportunity to get a player who addresses a big need on our football team now and in the future. And the fact is, the reality is, we picked a player that had an issue. That's on me, and we're going to figure it out.
The issue was he flunked his drug test at the combine.
At the combine, correct.
And how much concern would there be, knowing that, my goodness, you know, if you're going to stay clean, let's do it now. You know,
absolutely,
got millions of dollars on the line.
There's no way to sugarcoat it. I mean, it was a bad decision. It's a bad situation, and again, it's a different risk and potential reward when you select a player at 70 as opposed to if you're picking that player at 21 or even higher. That's so we know that there's still some risk involved here. And I think what we've tried to do here, Jack, is build a locker room, create a culture, and have a developmental system that has a lot of things in place that can help a player on the field, off the field, and help them grow, you know, from the young boys that they are when we get them and get integrated into the system. And again, there's no hiding. I mean, everyone, I've said this from the beginning, we're taking a risk here, and we're going to find out.
Can't have a room full